Welcome to UBP TV. What are the growth prospects for the world economy? Let's begin with the US economy. We expect US growth to accelerate from 2% this year to 3% next year. After the 4.6% rebound in the second quarter this year, we are expecting at least a 3% trend in the current semester. This means the acceleration is already under process, and we should end this year on a high printing. The main drivers of the growth should be total investment, mainly the corporate spending on equipment, and consumption. Consumption should grow at least at a 2.5% pace in the coming quarters, as fundamentals are positive: lower unemployment rate, less fiscal drag, and higher level of confidence. In a context of low inflation, the Fed will gradually remove its current aggressive accommodation. Fed fund rates could rise next year, but Mrs. Yellen should be cautious in this adjustment process in order not to destabilize bond markets. Where the Eurozone is going? The third quarter still shows a weak and fragile growth. In Germany, growth is weakening, while reforms are still expected in France and Italy. We expect more support coming from the budgetary policy at EU level, with projects coming from the new Commission. At the same time, the ECB will be obliged to adopt a more aggressive strategy, and the probability of a sovereign QE next year has recently increased. Our growth scenario for Eurozone for next year is very cautious, with only a 0.7% growth expected, below the consensus. What is the situation in China? The domestic demand seems to remain sluggish, and only exports have shown recently a rebound. Growth should officially stay in a 7%–7.5% range, but underlying growth is probably lower than that. The economic policy is obliged to revive the activity in terms of infrastructure projects and liquidity injections. Thus, eliminates the risk of a hard landing, but the trend remains modest, with no strong rebound in sight. In Japan, growth is also modest, and domestic demand has not yet significantly recovered after the shock of the rise in VAT in April. Prospects for next year are limited to 1.5% growth, which is slightly below the average 2% expected for the global OECD. The BOJ will probably be also obliged to renew its monetary support and increase its purchases of bonds. Asia is a region which seems better positioned to show a significant rebound this semester and next year. Intra-trade in Asia is recovering, and domestic demand should stabilize after the adjustments taken in the past 6 months. Let's summarize our views. Global growth to slightly accelerate next year to 3.7%. The US should continue to lead the trend within the G7 countries. Growth in the Eurozone and Japan should benefit from a more supportive economic policy, but their growth is fragile. The Fed should begin its exit strategy in the second quarter next year, but the tightening should remain moderate, more moderate than the official Fed forecasts. Emerging countries should stabilize, but only some countries should be able to resynchronize with developed countries. Thank you, and see you soon on UBP TV.